As we come to the end of the year-long celebration of the 150th anniversary of the Philadelphia Fire Department, let us reflect on the African-American trailblazers that have led the department. We recognize and honor the tremendous impact each has made. Their contributions to the department were significant. Their resilience in the face of adversity is to be admired. Each stood tall on the shoulders of those that came before them, and their contributions paved the way for other members of color. Today, we will focus on 3 African Americans commissioners of the Philadelphia Fire Department. They are Harold B. Harrison, Lloyd Ayers, and Derek Sawyer. Commissioner Harold B. Harrison, born December 8th, 1939, died November 1st, 2016. Served as commissioner June 29th, 1992 to July 29th, 2004. Commissioner Harrison started his firefighting career in 1964 when he entered fire training school as a member of the 122nd training class. After 7 years of duty, he was promoted to lieutenant in 1971. By 1978, he was promoted to captain, and 2 years later, he would be acting battalion chief. Less than a year later, he was promoted to battalion chief. As battalion chief, he headed the 9th and the 11th battalions, where he was assigned to command inspections unit and was assigned to the post assistant fire marshals. In 1986, he was named deputy chief. 1988, he was appointed deputy commissioner. On January 6, 1992, he was appointed the newly created position of Fire's deputy commissioner. When Commissioner Roger O. Schaefer retired, Harrison was appointed fire commissioner by Mayor Ed Rendell. Commissioner Harrison was the first African American to lead the Philadelphia Fire Department. He would hold this position for the next 12 years. In the early 1990s, fire deaths were at an all-time high in the city of Philadelphia. To combat this alarming situation, Commissioner Harrison initiated several programs, including Adopt a School. A fire station would adopt a school and conduct fire safety and fire prevention programs at the school and firehouse. Another was the home inspection program. Residents would schedule a visit from the fire company to do a home inspection. The company would identify unsafe items in the home and assist in correcting the hazard. Most of the fire deaths in the city occurred in homes that didn't have smoke alarms. Commissioner Harrison enlisted the help of business community to donate smoke alarms. Grants were also obtained to finance the program. These programs, along with numerous TV and radio show fire prevention public service messages, helped reduce the death in the city. These programs continue to this day and are copied by many cities throughout the US and Canada. Commissioner Harrison was awarded the Metropolitan Chief of the Year for 2003 by the Association of the Metropolitan Fire Chiefs. He also received the Fire Officer of the Year from the National Burglar and Fire Alarm Association. Harrison held degrees from several universities and was committed to continuing education. He attended courses given by the FBI, ATF, and the National Fire Academy. He sought additional learning opportunities for the department as well. He spearheaded a partnership with Community College of Philadelphia and Holy Family College to offer fire science and fire administration courses. He enlisted the help of the union and ultimately convinced the city to reimburse tuition for these courses. Commissioner Harrison arranged to have representatives from the fire industry give one-day courses at the Fire Academy. He also increased the number of companies going to the academy for continuing and refreshing education. During his tenure, EMS calls outnumbered fire calls. Emergency medical calls became 70% of the total response. Commissioner Harrison increased the department's focus on EMS. He increased the number of medic units and increased the number of advanced life support units. He pushed to start charging for EMS services and was pushed by City Council to give the department a portion of the proceeds to help maintain the equipment and vehicles. He just asked for the insurance companies to pay the department because we were providing the service. He instituted a computer system so that the medics could record their reports on a laptop at the scene. Speaking of computers, Commissioner Harrison brought computers to the dispatch system. The calls are now printed out in the stations. This gives companies important information before they get on scene. The officers can also submit their reports via commuter. Commissioner Harrison accomplished all of this in spite of massive budget cutbacks from the Rundell and the street administration. He also weathered accusations of sexual harassment and racism. Commissioner Harrison retired in 2004 after 40 years of service to the Philadelphia Fire Department. And the citations of the city of Philadelphia, 12 of those years as fire commissioner. After retirement, Harold Harrison kept busy as a board member on many community organizations. Commissioner Harrison passed away at his home after a long illness on November 1st, 2016. He is buried in Ivy Hill Cemetery.
I started at Engine 9, which is actually in the community in which I live right now. And after about a year or so, I ended up getting transferred to headquarters. And because of that, I used to run into the commissioner. And I ended up, for some reason or another, always in conversations with him. So because of that, I started to ask him questions and that kind of thing. So it never really seemed out of reach. We had one that probably most people remember that was in, I think it was 96, and that was the I-95 tire fire. That was 8 alarm. I didn't think that it could do that much damage to 95. It was shut down for quite a while. Before I became the commissioner, I recognized that the city was out of control in terms of the number of fires, and it was out of control in terms of the number of fire deaths. I recognized that we must be doing something wrong, so I started to talk to people in other cities. What were they doing right? What were they doing different? And I found out that it was codes that really made the real difference in getting out in the community. We started to get into the national codes and that kind of thing. If you were building a high-rise building, whether it was 50 stories, 60 stories, 70 stories, whatever it was, you were going to do the same thing. And then it was the same thing as far as putting smoke alarms in and that kind of thing. The community got on board. The next thing you know, we're dropping those fire deaths down from 100. Before I left, it was down to 32. So once we accepted those things and got the community involved, it changed the whole complexion of what was going on.
Commissioner Lloyd Ayers, born December 2nd, 1951. Commissioner, July 30th, 2004 to June 14th, 2014. Lloyd Ayers was appointed commissioner of the Philadelphia Fire Department in 2004 by then Mayor John Street. He was the second African-American commissioner, but his climb up the ranks started 30 years early. In 1974, he was sworn in as a cadet in the 143rd training class and graduated 5th in his class. He spent the next 10 years homing the craft of firefighter. In 1985, he was promoted to lieutenant. He quickly rose to captain, then battalion chief. In the year 2000, Chief Ayers was promoted to deputy chief. Later that day, Deputy Chief Ayers was appointed to the position of Deputy Commissioner of Technical Services. In 2001, he was appointed to the Deputy Commissioner of Operations on August 1st, 2004. 2 days after Commissioner Harrison retired, he was appointed acting commissioner for 4 months. Then, 4 months later, was promoted to commissioner. During his career, Commissioner Ayers was the president of Club Valiants, Inc., the Association of Black Firefighters. He was the director of the Northeast region of the International Association of Black Firefighters. Also, the executive vice president of the International Association of Black Firefighters. Commissioner Ayers oversaw the massive overhaul of the 800 megahertz communication system and the installation of computer terminals, mobile data terminals in the engines and ladder companies. This enhanced the information sent to responding companies en route to scenes. He started the Community Risk Reduction Program. Commissioner Ayers expanded the home smoke alarm program by introducing smoke alarms for the hearing impaired. Philadelphia's Heavy Rescue Company became part of FEMA Task Force 1 search and rescue team. In 2011, the Philadelphia Fire Department was designated the command unit of FEMA Task Force 1. Commissioner Ayers' tenure was during a period of financial troubles for the city. He was constantly fighting budgetary cutbacks. One way he did this was rolling brownouts. Several companies would be closed for a given shift. This would allow members to be sent to other companies to fill vacancies. He did this so no one would be laid off. This was a very controversial program. As much as everyone hated it, no firefighter was laid off. As with his predecessors, fire prevention was a priority. He believed it was better to stop fires before they started, rather than to have to put them out after they start. His efforts brought the civilian fire deaths down dramatically. Commissioner Ayers retired on June 14th, 2014, after 40 years of service to the city of Philadelphia. He continues to serve as several civic groups.
Quite a while.
Meridian Fire, that was where we lost 3 members, and I had the task of having to go notify one of the members' wives, and that sticks in my mind. Every mayor that I've worked for, the goal was to make the city safer. Sprinklers in homes will make all of the difference in the world. It means life and death. You stop in the percentage of citizens that lose their lives or that are critically injured in house fires, 1 and 2 family dwellings, the percentage dives. I loved the lifestyle. It was everything that was good about an organized team that go out and help people. And I didn't even think about being a lieutenant until after I had 10 years in the job. And then when you go in and you look and you see the commitment that's required to have other men have their lives in your hand, you start to think about it. So it's about studying, understanding, and being focused, and understanding that it's a higher responsibility. And after that, I dove in.
Commissioner Derek Sawyer, born August 1st, 1959. Commissioner, June 14th, 2014 to May 16th, 2016. Commissioner Sawyer joined the Philadelphia Fire Department in 1985. Unlike many people that joined the fire service, he did not have a lifelong desire to become a fireman. He spent the next 10 years firefighting, honing his skills and learning all he could. In 1995, firefighter Derek Sawyer was promoted to lieutenant. This started his climb up the ranks. In 2003, he was promoted to captain. Then in 2007, Captain Sawyer was promoted to the battalion chief. He continued his climb, and in 2011, he was promoted to deputy chief, which put him in command of one half of the city's firefighting forces. Deputy Chief Derek Sawyer was appointed as Deputy Commissioner of Operations in 2013. Upon the retirement of Commissioner Lloyd Ayers on June 14, 2014, Mayor Michael Nutter appointed Deputy Commissioner Sawyer as Fire Commissioner of the Philadelphia Fire Department. Commissioner Sawyer was a firm believer in fire prevention, but he took a different approach. He felt that one size fits all approach really didn't address all the problems throughout the city. He thought a more localized approach would be more effective. He instituted the Community Risk Assessment Program. Each company would survey its local area and identify the buildings and areas that were all at high risk of fire and in need of other emergency services. These areas would be targeted for education. This also got the companies into the communities more, showing public that the fire department is truly a part of their community. Commissioner Sawyer was a believer in technology. He started a program to update information databases to make them more user-friendly and to make them more accessible to all the department. He also fought to keep buying new apparatus to update the department's aging apparatus fleet. Commissioner Sawyer ended the rolling brownouts. This program closed stations for a day on a rotating basis. The members of those companies would be sent to other companies that were short of manpower. This program cut the amount of overtime paid by the department, but left parts of the city unprotected. Sawyer changed the way medical services were provided. Previously, firefighters would staff basic medical units on a rotation basis. This would take firefighters out of the fire companies. He would start the Fire Service Emergency Medical Technician Program. During this short tenure as commissioner, Derek Sawyer oversaw many major incidents, including the Amtrak train derailment. This incident brought national and international attention to Philadelphia and its fire department. The department was praised for the professional and exemplary manner in which they handled this disaster. As a result of Commissioner Sawyer's effort to insurance service officers named Philadelphia a United States Class 1 city. On May 16, 2016, Commissioner Derek Sawyer was replaced as commissioner by Adam Teal. Sawyer became a deputy chief. He continued to serve and contribute to the department. On January 20th, 2017, Deputy Chief Derek Sawyer retired after 30 years of service to the Philadelphia Fire Department and the citizens of Philadelphia.
For me, I didn't want to be a firefighter because I used to be a fire truck mechanic in the Air Force. So my job was fixing fire trucks, and because the firefighters would break the trucks all the time, I had this thing where these darn firefighters. So when I got out of the Air Force, I went to MSB Municipal Services building, and I was filling out job applications, and the lady says, "Oh, you were a fire truck mechanic. The fire department's hiring." I'm like, I don't want to be a firefighter. But fortunately, I took the test anyway. So I take the test, score it well, and then I'm thinking, let me just go for the interview. I go for the interview. They start talking about 4 days on, 4 days off, and 2 weeks vacation starting out. And I think at the time it was a $4,000 pay increase and medical benefits. I'm like, I think I'm gonna give it a try. The one fire that I would never, ever forget is the Gesner Street fire. And the reason why, I was the commissioner for 2 weeks. 2 weeks in, 4th of July happened. We had a nice 4th of July that day. And about 2 a.m. that next morning, I get a phone call, 4-alarm fire. I respond, 4 children die, 10 houses burned. And what made it rough, because on my way to this fire, I'm thinking, how can I get to this home at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the parents are nowhere to be found, and you have 4 children inside? Then on top of that, there were false accusations saying that it took us 30 minutes to respond. It doesn't take us 30 minutes to respond anywhere in this city because of the resources that we have. So then you have to address that piece. Yeah. And those firefighters really went the extra mile because they knew there were children inside. You had firefighters that were getting injured, fighting through the flames. The block was so hot because of all the houses on fire that you had cars, mirrors melting, firefighters' helmets melting. That was my first true test of leadership, for the most part, because I had to sympathize with the community because they lost 4 children, right? And the community was in an uproar. They were members of the Liberian community, which means they were immigrants, and they have a different concept about people in uniform. So they were already up in arms a little bit because they look at the fire service and law enforcement as being the same. They don't have the ability to separate the two. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, the members were heartbroken because those 4 children died. So I had to make sure I addressed their emotional concerns and make sure they understood that I supported them also.
You're talking about your firefighters.
Firefighters,
Right.
Yes, sir. So that was the challenge, taking care of your members, right, the firefighters, and then also helping the community heal also because they lost 4 children. So working with the Red Cross, we always go out and do the smoke alarm installation after a fire fatality. And we were on the block working with the Red Cross, and you had a lot of people from the community show up because of the loss. And we were going out to install the alarms. And I remember you had the community on one side, you had the firefighters on the other side. So one of the first things I did was brought them both together. I said, I need 1 firefighter and 1 community member to go into these homes together. Right. We're not going to be separate. And by doing that, it kind of eased the tension. Not 100%, but it kind of eased the tension for them to understand that we have to do this together.
In conclusion, I would like to thank all of the men and women who came before me and sacrificed to provide me and others the opportunity to reach greater heights and provide greater service. While we still hope that one day we all will be viewed as people without barriers dividing us, I want to take a moment to talk about a tragic fire that occurred earlier this year in the city's Fairmount section. As many of you know, a large extended family suffered a tremendous loss. Until fire directly impacts a family member or friend, people don't think these emergencies will happen to them. We all must take fire safety seriously. Fire safety starts with fire prevention. Here are 3 things that every Philadelphian should know about fire safety. First, everyone needs to have a smoke alarm and carbon monoxide detector on every level of the building where people sleep at night. That way they can hear it. Second, the doors to rooms need to be closed. This stops the travel of fire, reduces the amount of smoke that can enter the room, and gives occupants more time to gather themselves and decide on a path of escape. Third, families should practice a fire drill twice a year. I would suggest in the fall and in the spring when the weather is mild. Run through 2 rehearsals. Think of ways to exit the building so that you have a plan B if plan A is blocked. Have a meeting place outside of your property where all families can be accounted for. Once you're outside, stay out and call 911. Do not go back in for pets. Firefighters are paid to respond to fire emergencies, but there's only so much that we can do. Civilians also have an important role to play. If we teach fire safety early to our young children, it will become a habit and something that kids can talk about with their friends and family. We want to create a cycle of talking and thinking about fire safety. We know this can save lives. Thank you for joining me. And remember, fire's everyone's fight.